I have enough traffic to run A/B testing? This is perhaps one of the most common questions that I hear anywhere between 10 to 20 times every week. Let me start by saying that you are probably asking the wrong question because the traffic that your site has does not matter that much. And let me also tell you that if you are talking to somebody about improving your site conversion rate and they ask you about how many visitors are coming to your site, they probably do not understand statistics. Hello everyone, this is Khaled with Invesp. This channel is all about helping you improve your site conversion rate. Now we do that by sharing the best strategies, tips, and tools on how to do that. Now if you are new to this channel, I'd love for you to subscribe and of course to like and comment on this video. Let's jump right in. Most people are surprised when I tell them to forget about the number of visitors that come to their site when it comes to deciding whether they should be running A/B testing or not, and instead they need to look at the number of conversions that their site is generating. Why is that? When you run an A/B experiment, your goal is to reach high level of confidence that one of the variations in your experiments has an impact on your bottom line. So you are testing to see whether the control, the current design that you have on your website, generates the most conversion, or one of the other variants that are included in the A/B experiments will have a better chance of beating the control, beating the original, generating more conversions on your website. Now we want to reach this high level of confidence in a reasonable amount of time. What is a reasonable amount of time? Typically is anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks. I do not like to run experiments for less than a week, and I do not like to run experiments for more than 4 weeks. We've worked with large companies where you're able to reach statistical confidence and significance fairly quickly. Think of a company like eBay where you launch an A/B experiment and you're able to achieve statistical significance within a couple of hours. Is that data sound? And can you make a decision based on that data? I would argue that you cannot. Why is that? Although just merely looking at statistics, you think that you've collected a sample size, but the reality, running an experiment for a couple of hours does not cover different visitors coming at different times of day, coming at different days of the week. And that is the reason we require our experiments to run for a minimum of a week. How about experiments that take longer than 4 weeks to conclude? You are also opening yourself to a problem. The longer an A/B experiment runs, the higher the chance that you have data pollution, too many factors that could impact the quality of your data. That is the reason 1 to 4 weeks is the golden parameter that we have for every A/B experiment that we run. Now remember, before we run any A/B experiment, we always decide on the sample size that is required for that experiment. Based on my data, based on the number of visitors that are coming to my website and the particular page that I'm testing, what is the conversion rate for that page? There are other factors. You get a sample size. You need to be running this experiment for 30,000 visitors, for 100,000 visitors. This experiment is going to run for 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks. Now, shortly, I'm going to jump into a sample size calculator that we have on FigPy, and I'm going to show you how some of the rules that I'm about to mention are actually reflected in the sample size that is required for an A/B experiment. Let me share some numbers with you that will help you decide whether you should be running A/B experiments or not. If your site generates less than 200 conversions per month, then running A/B testing might not make sense. And if you choose to run A/B experiments, then I would focus on what we call micro conversion testing. It means that I'm not measuring the impact that my A/B test has on my overall conversion rate. So let's take the simple case of an e-commerce website. I'm running an A/B test on the homepage. I'm not going to see the impact, and I'm not going to measure the impact of the different variants or the control on the order confirmation. I might measure the impact of maybe people getting to my collection pages, getting to my product pages, or clicking on the add to cart button. That will help me in case I do not have enough conversions to speed up my A/B testing. Now, let's take the case where your site generates anywhere between 200 to about 800 conversions per month. Yes, you can do A/B experimentation and you should be doing A/B experiments. However, you should not have lots of different different challengers to the control. You might also have to relax some of the rules, such as confidence level or chance to beat the original that you have in your A/B experiments, with an eye on how long it takes you to complete an A/B experiment. If you have anywhere between 1,000 conversions to 3,000 conversions, then you definitely should be doing A/B testing. You should have rigorous rules for analyzing your A/B test. You need to make sure that, again, those A/B experiments would run anywhere between 1 week to 4 weeks. Let's take the last case. If you have more than 3,000 conversions per month, this is where magic happens. You're able to run your experiments fairly quickly. You'll have high testing velocity. You're able to reach conclusion really quickly, and you should be constantly, most of the time, beating the original. Now, let's go ahead and put all of this into context. I'm going to jump in, pull up a sample size calculator, and show you how the number of conversions will impact how many experiments you can be running on your site at any particular time. Now, this is a standard calculator. I pulled the A/B test duration calculator from FigPi because I am a co-founder over there, but there are a ton of A/B test duration calculators available on the web, and they all perform the same way. Now, before we start taking a look at the example, let's notice the parameters that this calculator includes. It's going to ask you for the original conversion rate. This is not the site conversion rate, rather the conversion rate for the particular page that you are testing for the particular goal also of that test. So I might be running a test on the home page, and I want to measure, when I talk about the original conversion rate, for those visitors who come to the home page, since that's the page I'm going to be testing, how many of them are actually converting. How do you calculate that conversion rate? You can either use your analytics to figure out that conversion rate, or you can run an AA test, and that will tell you the original conversion rates. If you don't know how to calculate the conversion rate, drop a comment below, and I'll be glad to record a video about that. So it's going to ask you for the original conversion rates, how many average visitors to the page per day. So in this case, we said 3,500. That's kind of the standard value. How many variations I'm going to include in the test. What's the expected lift? Now, lots of people struggle with this. This is what's called the minimum desirable effect. Do I expect my test to generate a 10%, 15%, 20%? This is a little bit counterintuitive because people sometimes, if you notice, this is 20% and tells you that the test is going to run for 9 days. Now, let's just leave the data as is, and let's say we want to run the test with a minimum expected lift of 5%. Notice that now this number actually increased. There's a lot of statistical theory behind this, and people get confused. They're like, what? 5%? It should run actually shorter than the 20%. No, that is not the case. Whenever you're running an A/B test, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. The bigger the needle, the faster or the easier it is to find it. That's the reason usually we are aiming for 15 or 20% expected lift. This is Bayesian statistics. If you use a frequentist A/B testing platform, then you'll find confidence over here. We usually aim for 95%. Sometimes, if the site does not get enough conversions, I might reduce this to 90%. Let's take a look at this. So this particular page gets 3,500 visitors. So let's figure out how many monthly visitors this particular page that we are testing gets. So I'm just going to open up my calculator, my trusty calculator, 3,500, and multiply that by 30 days. So in a month, this particular page is getting 105,000 visitors. How many conversions does this site generate? It's 3.5% conversion rate. So multiply that by 3.5 and then divided by 100. And if you notice, this particular page is generating 3,600 conversions per month at 3 variations, 20% lifts, concluding the test in 9 days. Remember, we want to see the number over here not to exceed 30 days. If we exceed 30 days, then we have a problem. Okay, so now let's jump into an example where the site generates less than 200 conversions per month, and let's see the impact on the number of days. And again, the rule for us over here is we want to run the A/B test where it does not exceed 31 days. So in this case, let's say we have a site that generates 30,000 visitors a month. So that's 1,000. And let's say that the conversion rate is 0.5%. You think about it, 0.5% at 30,000, that's 150 conversions. And let's pull up our trusty calculator and see how that looks. So 1,000 visitors multiplied by 30, that's 30,000. Multiply that by 0.5 and divide that by 100. So we got 150 conversions. So notice in this case, a 0.5% conversion rate, 1,000 visitors a day, 2 variations, 20% expected lift, 95%. It's going to take us 238 days. And that's the reason 200 conversions, in this case is even less, it's 150 conversions. It's really tough to run an A/B test. So my first thing to do is I'm going to say, you know what, in this case, let's just reduce it to 2. Right away, it dropped to 159. Now, again, 159, we're talking almost 6 months, 5 months and 10 days. So I can run A/B testing testing, but if I'm gonna wait for a test for 159 days, you're gonna hate A/B testing. So maybe I am willing to actually be a little bit flexible, and I might be willing to go down to 90%. 89 days. Is it great? No, it's still 2 months. What if I am willing to reduce it to 80% chance to beat control? 49 days at 150 conversions. That's where it gets tricky. Now, let's change it where we cross that 200 threshold. Right now we are at 0.5. Let's say our conversion rate is 0.7. Notice how it's going to take us 35 days. We can call some of those tests early within 30 days because we might have enough data. You see, at 200, we had to actually reduce the chance to beat the control to 80% in order for us to conclude in almost 30 days. Now, let's take another example where we actually jump to, let's say, 300 conversions. So at 1% conversion rate is 24 days. Well, we'll say, you know what, we are going to go with 85%. So, okay, this is great. So in this case, if we want to show just the math quickly, we have 30,000 visitors multiplied by 1%, which is 1. So it's going to be 30,000 divided by 100. So in this case, we have 300 conversions. You see how things, the more conversions you're getting, and that's the reason I always focus on conversions. I didn't talk about the number of visitors, correct? That's where I get more flexibility. Let's say that we're getting 1.5. Quickly, how many conversions is that? I can do the math quickly, then I'll pull up the calculator. That's about 450 conversions. Let's take a look at the math over here. So it's 30,000 visitors multiplied by 1.5 divided by 100. Again, that's 450 conversions. And notice it's taken us 23 days. So I'm going to be a little bit more strict. Now, even with the 90% chance to beat control, things are a little bit more comfortable with 450 conversions. There's different ways to play with this. Again, what I'm focused on is the number of conversions. Let's double the number of visitors. In this case, I'm getting 60,000 visitors at 1.5%. That is giving me almost 900 conversions. Let's do the math quickly over here. 2,000 visitors a day, 60,000 visitors, correct? 1.5 conversion rate multiplied by 1.5, then divide that by 100. And look at this, is 900 conversions. Now it's taken us 14 days to conclude the test. So I'm going to go to 95% confidence, 26 days. I might even say, you know what? I am willing to accept a chance to beat control of 90%, but I'm going to introduce another variation. I still now have 22 days to conclude the test. So you see the flexibility that you get. Let's jump in where you have 2,000 conversions per month. So 2,000 conversions, I might just increase that to 4,000, and then let's do 2%. It's a little bit more than 2,000 conversions. Let's do the math over here. It is a bit more than 2,000 conversions per month, 4,000 daily. So that's 120,000 visitors. Multiply that by 2%, divide that by 100, and that gives us 2,400 conversions per month. Notice I have 3 variations with an expected conversion rate lift of 20%, and I'm going to be actually at 95. It's 14 days to conclude. That's the reason I will say crossing the 2,000 conversions per month, that's where magic happens. What you want to do is pull up this A/B test duration calculator, keep an eye on the number of days it's going to take you to conclude a test, and then plug in your numbers. But know that more than 500 conversions, things get easy. More than 1,000, it gets easier. With 2,000, 2,400 conversions per day in this example, things are just absolutely magical. It's taken us 14 days to conclude the test. It just looks absolutely wonderful. I'm going to leave a link to this duration calculator in the description below as well.